They thought it was just a joke. A powerful millionaire surrounded by the city's richest elites sent a golden invitation not to a celebrity, not to a politician, but to the black cleaning lady who scrubbed floors in silence. To him, it was nothing more than a cruel prank, a way to humiliate her if she dared show up. But what no one expected was that she did show up. And when she walked through those doors, she didn't look like the woman they thought they knew. She looked like royalty. Suddenly, the laughter died, the whispers grew louder, and the spotlight shifted. By the end of the night, the millionaire who thought he held all the power would be left humiliated in his own mansion, while the woman he mocked stood as the true queen of the evening. Stay with me until the very end, because what happened inside that ballroom will leave you questioning how many times we have overlooked the real gems among us. At the center of the city's wealthy district, a grand gala was about to unfold. Invitations, gilded in gold, were sent to politicians, entrepreneurs, and celebrities. The event was hosted by Victor Langford, a millionaire known as much for his extravagant parties as for his arrogance. In a moment of careless mockery, he ordered his assistant to deliver an invitation to a woman no one in his circle would expect, the hotel's black cleaning lady, Rosa. To him, it was nothing more than a cruel inside joke, something to amuse his equally privileged guests. Rosa, who worked quietly in the background of the same hotel where Victor often held meetings, had always been invisible to men like him. She swept the floors, polished the marble, and folded linens while people passed her by without a glance. What Victor didn't know was that Rosa carried herself with a quiet dignity, the kind that could never be erased by her uniform or underestimated by her circumstances. When the golden envelope arrived at her modest apartment, Rosa held it with trembling hands. The wax seal felt unreal, the words almost taunting. To many, such a gesture would have been dismissed, but to Rosa, it was a call. Something inside her stirred, a challenge to show up, not as who Victor thought she was, but as the woman she knew herself to be. The days leading up to the gala were filled with whispers of anticipation. While the wealthy prepared gowns imported from Paris and tuxedos stitched by exclusive designers, Rosa walked into a small boutique tucked away in the quieter corner of the city. She had saved for years, not for luxury, but for education for her children, repairs for her home, and dreams she rarely spoke aloud. Yet something about this moment felt different. It was as if life was giving her a rare chance to step into a new light. She found herself drawn to a sleek gown, deep sapphire in color, a fabric that shimmered without being loud. The shopkeeper, sensing her hesitation, smiled knowingly and assured her she belonged in it. Rosa added delicate earrings, borrowed shoes from a cousin, and styled her hair in elegant curls that framed her strong, graceful face. Looking in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. This wasn't just about attending a party. It was about reclaiming space in a world that had long tried to shrink her. Every choice she made that evening, from the perfume she dabbed behind her ears to the confident posture she practiced in her living room, became an act of defiance against the mockery behind the invitation. She wasn't going to walk into that ballroom as a cleaning lady, invisible and forgotten. She was going to arrive as Rosa, resilient, radiant, and unshakably proud. The gala buzzed with glittering chandeliers, clinking glasses, and the laughter of the city's elite. Guests paraded in gowns that sparkled like diamonds, their eyes scanning for status, for recognition, for affirmation. Victor basked in the glow of their admiration, casually dropping names of business partners and accomplishments. He smirked to himself, awaiting the punchline of his so-called joke. Then the ballroom doors opened. Heads turned. Conversations paused. For a moment, the music itself seemed to lower in reverence. Rosa entered, her sapphire gown flowing like liquid night, her presence commanding without effort. She didn't shrink into the corners as Victor had imagined. She walked through the center of the room, her chin lifted, her gaze steady. The hush was almost palpable, Whispers spread like wildfire as guests tried to place her. Was she a celebrity they hadn't recognized? An international figure they had overlooked? Victor's smirk faltered as realization dawned. His joke had backfired. Rosa didn't look like the caricature he had tried to paint. She looked like royalty. Every step she took was a declaration that dignity could not be mocked, that grace could not be diminished by occupation, and that beauty was not defined by wealth. In that moment, Rosa owned the room in a way no millionaire ever could. Victor's guests struggled to reconcile what they were seeing with what they thought they knew. Some tried to laugh it off, assuming Rosa's presence was part of an elaborate entertainment act. Others studied her intently, captivated by her poise. Rosa didn't falter. She held her own in conversations, speaking with a clarity that made people lean in to listen. Victor, however, felt his control slipping. His intention had been humiliation, a reminder of the gap between them. But now the attention that should have been on him was drawn toward her. His pride bristled as Rosa moved through the room like a star among satellites. Inside, Rosa felt the tension. She knew there were eyes that judged her, whispers that sought to reduce her back to the role she played during the day. Yet she also felt something new: respect. Some guests approached her with genuine curiosity, asking about her background, her life, her story. She answered not with bitterness, but with authenticity. She spoke of resilience, of raising children with integrity, of finding joy even in simple things. The ballroom had expected a spectacle of mockery. Instead, they witnessed the power of self-respect. Victor's smirk had hardened into silence, his glass of champagne untouched as he realized the night was no longer his to control. As the evening unfolded, the host attempted to steer attention back toward himself with speeches and toasts, but the glow around Rosa only grew brighter. When the band struck up a slower tune, she stepped onto the dance floor with elegance, not waiting for permission. Guests watched in awe as she moved, her gown catching the light with every step. It wasn't the steps themselves, but the confidence behind them that left the crowd entranced. Slowly, people joined her, one by one. Soon, the dance floor was filled, and Rosa had become its undeniable center. She had transformed Victor's stage into her own, without arrogance, without demanding recognition, simply by being unapologetically herself. For the first time, many of the city's elite looked at her not as a cleaning lady, but as a woman of substance. In her presence, they were reminded that wealth could buy chandeliers but not grace, could buy gowns but not dignity. Victor, cornered in his own opulence, could no longer ignore what was happening. The very person he intended to ridicule had risen higher than anyone else in the room. The applause, the admiration, the respect, all of it belonged to Rosa. As the night drew closer to its peak, something remarkable happened. Conversations began to change. Instead of boasting about wealth or trading business gossip, guests began reflecting on their own lives, their own blind spots. Rosa's presence had quietly shaken something within them. They saw her not as a symbol of shame, but as a mirror to their own assumptions. Some admitted, in hushed voices, that they had underestimated people outside their circle. Others confessed to recognizing their own arrogance. Even those who had been skeptical at first now found themselves captivated by the way Rosa carried herself with unforced grace. Rosa wasn't preaching, wasn't demanding, wasn't scolding. She was simply existing, fully, proudly, unapologetically. And in that existence, she revealed truths that no speech could. That dignity lives in every person, regardless of station. That worth is not determined by wealth, but by character. That respect cannot be given or taken away by an invitation written in gold. Victor remained seated, his arrogance reduced to silence. For perhaps the first time, he felt the weight of being small in a room where his money could not protect him, and everyone could see it. When the night came to an end, guests departed with more than just memories of music and fine dining. They carried with them the image of Rosa, her gown shimmering under the chandelier, her laughter echoing softly, her strength impossible to ignore. For many, it was the most meaningful night they had ever experienced at one of Victor's galas. Rosa returned home not to a mansion but to her modest apartment, where her children waited eagerly. She hung her gown carefully, not as a relic of fantasy, but as a reminder of who she truly was. She knew her life would not transform overnight. Tomorrow she would still return to work, still pick up her tools, still clean the floors others walked upon. But something within her, and within those who witnessed her, had shifted forever. Victor's name would be remembered for his wealth, but Rosa's name would be remembered for something far greater. The night she turned mockery into majesty, insult into inspiration, and invisibility into undeniable presence. And so the question lingered in every guest's mind long after the gala ended. How many Rosas have we overlooked in our own lives, never realizing the royalty standing quietly before us?